All right, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Whiskey Wednesdays. Today I'm joined by musician Jocelyn Mackenzie, who is about to put out her debut album, Push, and we're so excited for everyone to hear it. So just for people who may not know you or know your story, like how did you first get into music?
Well, I have been a musician for as long as I can remember, being a toddler and walking around writing songs and things like that. And it's really just part of my blood. I don't really consider that there was ever a time when I was not a musician. And I always knew that I wanted to do it out loud and, professionally. And so I just remember being 7 years old and being like, I don't need to do homework. Like, I'm going to be like Cyndi Lauper when I grow up, and my mom was like, you have to do your homework. But I always also wanted to make music that I could collaborate with other people on. So, I just have been really grateful to meet some really amazing folks that have, brought my music to life. And as a songwriter, that's really the best gift that I could ever be given, is to work with people who can make my own music better than I have made it. So, it's just been a lifelong process and keep chugging at it. A day without music is no day for me. So,
Yeah. Who have been some of those people that have helped you feel like you can make yourself a better musician?
Oh, that's such a good question. Well, Emily Hill Price is the first person that comes to mind. She is one of my closest friends, and we were in a band together, Pearl and the Beard, with our bandmate Lloyd Styles, for a really long time. And Emily is an incredible cello player. She also is an improviser and a singer and an amazing songwriter. And she contributed 3 of the 12 string arrangements for Push, as well as played cello on it. So she has always really challenged my musicality in terms of her experience, and the way that she writes is very different than the way that I work. So when we come together, I feel like we get to really bring out the best in each other, and it's really so compelling. And of course, my co-producer on Push, Sam Cormally, he is just incredible, and he also did all the beats on the album. So he arranged 4 of the string arrangements and did all the beats and helped me produce it. And nobody makes music like Sam. So you can give Sam a phone demo with 3 notes in it and 2 words, and he could create it into something so huge. It's just unreal. I just love working with him. So I mean, that's I could literally list people for hours. But
yeah, that's the best part about the creative process, is being able to work with so many people who have different views and different ways of working, and when you put it together, it becomes this whole new different thing.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So you mentioned the songs with strings, and was the whole album was arranged entirely with a string quartet? Is that correct?
That is correct, Marissa. A whole album for string quartet and beats.
That's awesome. Why did you decide to do it like that?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, I can't say it was a decision so much as an idea that popped into my head like a bolt of lightning one day. And then once I had it, I kind of I was like, oh God, I'm kind of screwed, because I can't not hear my songs like that now, so I will tell you that I'm not somebody who considers myself an instrumentalist. I don't really play instruments well. I barely play the ukulele. I play well enough to sort of accompany myself, but it's not something that I've ever felt oh, this is really what I'm interested in terms of making music, right? For me, it's always been about singing. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to make my first album, that I get to call all the shots, I get to make all the decisions, in terms of the final product, right? Because of course I wanted to collaborate with people, but I was like, no, this is my baby, right? How do I want to serve this out to the world? I didn't really want to hear a full album's worth of ukulele tunes. That just didn't really feel like what I felt like listening to at the time. I always try to make the music that I want to listen to, right? So I was like, what do I want to listen to? I want to listen to a whole album for string quartet, and I want to sing on that, because I was also imagining performing it, and thinking oh my gosh, how fun would that be to sing, just sing, and then have a quartet. So once I had that idea, I really couldn't shake it, and that's kind of the worst kind of best idea to have. because then, you know, I felt really motivated to keep chugging at it even after working on it for many, many years. Because it took time to like get all the arrangements together, get all of the scores correct. You know, Sam did all of that work. He, you know, took all the composer's work and, you know, checked everything and made sure like all the parts were right. And then the quartet had to learn everything. I mean, it was such an intense process. So I can't say I will do it again. Maybe I will, who knows? But I think, you know, not to liken myself to David Bowie, but I think in the sense that Bowie's albums like all kind of had their own, like, this one is this world and this one is that world, right? And they work together, but they don't necessarily like they just have like different bands that kind of back the songs. That's kind of how I feel. Even Bjork, somebody like that, where it's like, oh, this album is like all for vocals, this one she's working with this DJ, right? Like it's kind of just an extended concept. So who knows what the next one will be, but we are not there yet, so one thing at a time.
Yeah, it's just, I guess it gives you the chance to be able to play around with a bunch of different things, especially if you're a solo artist. You can, you know, do whatever you want, really.
Yeah, totally. And I don't want to learn how to play any of the strings. I'm like, you are already great at it. Like, I'm not gonna do it. Like, you're better at it than I'll ever be. So like, you bring in your amazing thing and like put it on this song that I happen to write, and like, let's see what happens. So it's fun.
Yeah, and that also takes a lot of work too, just bringing the right people together and making it like a cohesive and sound the way that it should. Yeah.
That's a good point. I feel you're right. I think it's very much like making like a recipe or even like a painting where it's like, okay, this color and this color. Like some colors, when you blend them together, they just kind of make mud. But then like, oh no, then you get the right one, and all of a sudden it's like, you know. So that's what we're working towards here.
Yeah. So you put out a couple singles this past year before the album is being released, and a few music videos too. I watched both of them, for Better and what was the other one? The Brave Ones. And Better was really cool. It was like the stop motion, like seeming like multiple photos of people and you singing the song. I would love to know how you did that, because that seems like that would take so much time with everyone. I don't even know how that works, to like take the photos of everyone like saying the words but in like different, explain.
Well, thanks for asking about that, Marissa. That idea also kind of came as this like inspiration, and I was like, oh man, like this would be so good, because actually that idea came right at the beginning of quarantine. You know, the album, I had just finished recording the vocals at the end of February of 2020. And
Wow.
Then 2 weeks later, we got put into lockdown. So it really was very like good timing on that sense. And so I had this idea to, you know, everybody was at home, not able to connect, not able to go to shows. I didn't know how long it was going to take to finish Push, but I had the song ready. And that song actually was one that I had been performing live on ukulele for a really long time. So that was one, at least, that I think folks who knew my work already were a little bit more familiar with, which is nice, because I can't say that for all the songs on the album. So I reached out, I literally just put a call out to my mailing list, you know, all my social media, my friends and family, and I was like, okay, you know, submit this thing. And I told them exactly what to do. Everybody only sent in 5 pictures. Some people did more if they wanted to, but I let people do whatever they wanted. I was like, whatever you want, that's what it'll be. And I got back like over 80 submissions, and I think I fit in about like 75 of them or so. But I just edited it in iMovie on my laptop. Like it was a lot of like, you know, Google searching, like, how do I edit this? You know, it's like very rudimentary. Thankfully, I have a lot of amazing friends who are editors, and so I learned from watching some of my friends. And you know, I did go to art school also, so I'm like, I have a BFA. I guess I can figure this out, you know. But it was, and I had done like snippets of editing before, but it was just really fun. And frankly, I had a lot of time to work on it, so there was no deadline. You know, I just got all these submissions, and then it did take many months to like, get it together. And I would edit a little bit. And the thing about it, because it was kind of like a stop motion thing.
Yeah.
So I would have to edit like small bits of it And also, by the way, whenever you're seeing me in the frame, I'm actually taking a selfie. So I took all those photos. I'm like in my apartment, like,
Oh,
la, 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 like doing makeup, like la la la, you know. So my phone is like 90% just pictures of that now. But I had to like get everything right, and then so I was building it kind of in the stop motion way.
mm-hmm.
So I really had to edit it and be pretty satisfied with what I had done before I moved on to the next section, because it's not like in motion video where it's like, oh, just go back to like second number 19 and switch something out. I mean, I could do that, but it was the way that you build it. Like if you take a chunk out, you've now messed up like the rest of your thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like literally like watching a flip book. So if you take a chunk out of the flip book,
yeah.
just a chunk is missing. So I had to be very patient with like the process. And I don't know, frankly, I was just amazed with what people submitted, like such creative stuff. And oh, can I tell you a really wacky story about two
Please.
of the people that submitted stuff?
Yeah.
So like I said, I let people just do whatever they wanted. Okay. So I was so excited when people were sending me such creative things back, like writing on their faces or like making their hair. My friend Steven, like he made his hair say that better. So two friends of mine, one of my best friends submitted on her lawn, she made her, like she had like sticks out on her lawn that spelled out the word better. Mm-hmm. And another friend of mine made flowers on the ocean. So two people did land art, right? I had no idea that they were going to do that. They just did it on their own and submitted it. So I was like, okay, this is the grand finale. This is amazing, right? The friend that submitted the flowers spelling better, turns out that like a family member of hers lives like across the street from like across the stream, like it's like a river, from my other friend who like did the land art on her lawn. So like the two, so they swam in like the same river. It was just really weird, like, and then people were like, oh, I know this person. So they would see the video and go, oh, how do you know that guy? I know this guy. Like, it was just so fun. Anyway.
Oh, that's such a cool way to bring people together when you can't, and in person anyway.
People were so generous.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Cool. And yeah, I think a lot of people are doing like different like things that they haven't been able to do because they have a lot more time now. And this is an example of that. What are you most excited about for this new album? And you know, it's your first solo album, right? So it must be like a different feeling than before.
Very different. A very different feeling. I hadn't thought about that. Well, it's funny because I'm not saying that I'm trying to completely like squash all expectations, because I think that like hope is really important, and you know, fantasy and imagination. Like there's a part of fantasy that becomes escapism, but there's a part of fantasy that's actually imagination, which like fuels creativity and fuels like the world growing. So like I don't want to live in the part of fantasy that's like, oh well, when I can finally tour, like. So like the real thing I'm most excited about is being able to sing this material in front of people at some point. I literally have no idea when that's going to happen. So I'm kind of just putting that like, okay, well, maybe it'll be in 5 years. I don't know. It took me 5 years to get to here. So another 5, it's like, why not? You know, I can wait. But I don't think it'll be that long. But so I guess what I'm excited about, oh man, that feels like tangible or foreseeable. It's just for people to hear it. Like, I don't know. It feels like a gift that I can give to the world to just, you know, put myself out there and say like, hey, these are some things that I feel, you know, these songs are very personal. I've been through a lot and was able to put them to this beautiful music that was really brought them to life in this new way. And I'm just excited to connect with people and for people to hear it. You know, and hopefully fall in love with it, because I'm in love with it. If I weren't in love with this music, I wouldn't have been able to work on it for this long. So I don't know, just I'll hear it, see what happens.
And yeah, like this is coming out at like a weird time too, where there aren't shows. So what are you going to be doing differently now, if anything, during this release than you would have in the past?
That's a great question, Marissa. So what actually I decided to do was, so whenever I've released albums in the past, typically you would go on like a 2-year touring cycle,
Yeah.
right? Where you're pitching that album, you're going to different cities, you're working on it for 2 years. So what I thought was, well, that's not going to happen. So what I'm doing is a year in push. So for the year of 2021, there's 12 songs on push, 12 months of the year. Each month is getting assigned a different song on the album. And on my social media and on my mailing list and any new content that I'm creating this year is all going to be focused on really developing and having discussions with my community around that song. So January is Better, of course, that's track 1, that's the first month. And that one, thankfully, we released it already, so people were a little more familiar. But so far, I've released like a Better inspired playlist, and I put out like a live version of Better that I recorded in my house, and different things like that, where it's like, okay, how can we? I made a collage. I've been making some art. Like all based on the themes of the music. And so as we go out through the months, each song is really kind of about a different thing. So I'll say like, okay, this is what the song is about for me. What does it mean to you? Did you see the music video? Like what experiences have you had with it? Like let's share, let's talk about it. So I don't know, we'll see how that goes. Could be that by the time May rolls around, I'm like sick of it and I just decide like this is too much work, I'm not going to do it. But we'll see. It's an experiment, but so far so good. It's actually been really rewarding, and it kind of feels like, how in like like there's different kinds of poetry where it's like, okay, a haiku or like a sonnet, right, where I could say like write a poem, but for me that feels like, oh god, that's a lot, like but if someone's like, oh no, write a sonnet, then I kind of know, okay, these are the syllables that are expected of me. This is how many words I get or how many lines I get. Then I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. Let's do that. So I feel like this is just me giving myself some like creative structure to really just keep talking about the same thing over and over again, but in new ways as we, go throughout the course of the year.
Yeah. And so it keeps on people's minds, but in different ways.
Yeah, and then hopefully we can, bring in and share the music with as many new people as possible. Like some people might be interested in like the artistic element of it, or say like more the witchy woo stuff that I do, or oh, I heard your playlist, like let me check out this other song. So who knows? Like I just love like those spider webs of connection of like, oh, I found this through this through this through this. So it's kind of a way to cast the net really wide and see who falls in.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about music in general, is that it can just relate to people in such different ways, but everyone relates to it because it's words not on a page, but like it could be on a page, but it's words that you listen to and hear, and you create that visual representation of emotions or something for yourself, just like if you were reading. You mentioned your witchy woo-woo stuff, and when I was looking up questions to ask you, I found out that you are a psychic medium, and that is so cool to me. Please, like, how did you find that out, and when did you first start practicing?
Oh, those are, well, I had, good question. I had kind of two different shifts of awakenings, right? So when I was a teenager, I was pretty, I kind of kept to myself a lot, and I had a pretty strong connection with the activity in my home at the time. I lived in a very old house, and I don't know, I felt like it was easier to talk to departed spirits than it was to talk to other teenagers. I'm a pretty awkward person in a lot of ways, so that kind of helped me feel really comforted. But when I went to college, I was in college, I was doing stuff, just was busy, I don't know, doing other things. So I kind of dipped out of my contact for a while, but then in the summer of 2019, so about a year and a half ago, I had another just spiritual awakening. I mean, I've always really been really, I feel like really benefited from having a lot of synchronicities, like, oh, this person knew that person, or whatever. And about a month before my awakening, I had this month where I ran into a different person on the street of New York City that I knew every day for a month. And I
That's
mean, like,
so
I
crazy.
know a lot of people. It was nuts. I mean, I know a lot of people, but this was like uncanny. And I would like hear a little voice, and it would be like turn left instead of go straight, or right. And I was like, okay, so like turn left, and there would be like my friend Lorraine would be like standing right there. I'm like, what is happening, right? So I was like, do I need like mental attention, right? Like this is, this is important. I need to take care of my mental health. But when I did a little bit of like, of course, self-diagnosed YouTube, do I need to seek professional help, or am I maybe experiencing some otherworldly thing? Like, I don't know, and probably a little bit of both, frankly. Yeah, I just did a lot of YouTube research on my own, and I literally just looked up like, am I a psychic? Am I medium? Like, what is this? And just went on these deep YouTube dives and just found out all this information that really resonated with me. And all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. And then I remembered being a teenager and going, wait a minute, this is a thing. So I'd like forgotten, like 20 years of my life went by and I just forgot. So I looked up New York mediumship meetup, right? There was one the next day, 2 blocks away from my work, like right after I got off of work. So I was like, okay. So I went, it was wild. So I went and it just like a switch just went on. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God. And I was able to give readings to 2 strangers who were able to confirm information that I was picking up for them. So not long after that, I was introduced to my mentor, Jackie Pierce, who I'm still working with and who coaches me. And she's been an intuitive medium, and she does a million other things as well for over a decade. And it's been amazing. So the main thing is that everybody has access to this. We are all psychic. We're all able to do these things. The word psychic just means like an extension of our physical senses, right? So it's like, if I'm thinking about my friend and then they call me, it's like, that's a psychic experience. We don't talk about it like that, but that is what I believe is happening. Like, we also get to believe whatever we want, right? So if this person is listening and going, oh, this lady is like out of her mind, like, great. These things, it feels really right for me, and I feel more and more excited about these connections that I get to make. And I started working with clients pretty much right away because they tell you to practice. The best way to do that is to offer readings to people and see. So for the first like 6 months, I would just call up my friends and go, hey, this really bananas thing happened. Like, do you want to come over and I'll like give you a reading and you'll just be the guinea pig and we'll see what happens. And they were all like, yeah, sounds great. So a bunch of my friends would just come over and I'd be like, okay. And then like, I'd tell them stuff and they'd go, and not a single person was like, you're making this up. Not a single person. And also not a single person was like, no, none of this is resonating with me, right? I'm not saying I get it right 100% of the time. Of course, I'm fallible and I make plenty of mistakes, but that the general sense is that there is a connection there, and that it was helping people, right? Helping people make peace with not getting to connect with lost loved ones, or helping give people a new perspective on physical, tangible reality, right? Like for me, and this is just me, if this is all there is, I'm out of here. I am out. Like, there's no, there's a lot of people I love dearly, and I like say this kind of lightly. Suicidal ideation is not a joke. I don't mean to take that lightly. However, for me, I just feel so connected to this idea that there's so much mystery, and also that kind of like music, right? It's like we all can listen to the same song and connect over it and go, oh, I understand you. Because when a certain song comes on, even in like the grocery store, 2 strangers can look at each other and go, mm-hmm. And that's kind of what it's like to be a medium, And those are these moments that make this physical reality really, really worthwhile and so rich for me. So I'm so grateful. I love my clients. Like, I'm working with people now for the 2nd and 3rd time, So it's been a short amount of time, but I just feel so excited about it, and, stoked to see how it develops, because I'm always learning.
Has any of your experiences with that transferred over into your music?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. The Brave Ones is a good example of a song that, that one felt like it was very kind of like downloaded, which is a term you hear sometimes in the psychic communities of like, all of a sudden I just had all this information, right? So the song just was like, whoop, like in my head. And I'm like, where did that come from? I don't know. But then what was interesting about it was, so, you know, Sam McCormley did the string arrangement for that one, and then I went into the studio to record the vocals. And so I did a first pass on my own, right? And my vocal engineer, Dan Brennan, he's incredible, and he's always so good about getting amazing performances from me. He really knows like what to say to really like get me in a good emotional space, right? To like really deliver the emotion as well as just the lyrics. So, but we were in the studio, I did one by myself, and then I stopped and I was like, Dan, I need to do one like plugged in, right? So for me, when I'm doing a reading, like I have a little ritual and I kind of like plug in. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I need to do that. And he's like, okay. So I plug in and I ask, I'm like, okay, whoever wrote this song, come sing it now. Sing it through me, right? And Marissa, you can hear the difference on the track of like the vocal quality was like so different between one and the other. And now what I love about that is that for me, that experience was very real, right? But for someone that doesn't really resonate with them, let's just imagine that that's like a thought exercise of like, I imagined someone was singing through me. It worked, right? So that's what I find so cool about that work too, is that like, it works if you're connecting with it, and it works if it's just kind of something that elevates you as a creative prompt, right? So for me, music and mediumship are so intertwined. To me, music is a bridge between our worlds, you know. So is art or dance or, you know, any creative form, like even just like being present or meditating or making a sandwich. Like anytime you're just in the zone. I don't know if you saw the new Pixar movie Soul. Did you see that?
Yes.
It was so good, right? I was like, oh my god, it's a movie about me. I just was like convinced it was me. It was so good because, and how he like goes into the zone, right? Like, yes. I really believe that's a real thing. I'm like, no, that's real. Like I get in the zone, man, and we're in both worlds at the same time. It's just phenomenal. I love it. And it was funny. One time one of my first ones, I was giving a reading to a friend of mine, and same thing. I was like, hey, I'm practicing. Would you be willing to sit for me, you know, and get a reading? And she's like, yeah, of course. And this is a friend I've known for years, right? And all of a sudden I'm like, they want to know about why you're not working on your book. And I stop and I'm like, you didn't tell me you were writing a book, because like I didn't know that information. But Spirit is like, no, ask her about why she's not working on her book right now. Like she needs to work on her book, right? And she's like, ugh, she like rolls her eyes at me, and I'm like, what? I didn't know. Like I was like, what? I would have loved to have known about your book, and I find out like this, you know. So it's actually funny to like give readings to people that I know, because I'm like, okay, I have to make sure that I'm separating what I know about them and what, you know, is spirit information. Because like I'm a channel. It's kind of like being a translator. Like if someone were to come up to you and just be like, okay, tell them blueberry, artichoke, doorknob, they'll understand. And you go, really? And they go, yeah. And I go, okay, blueberry, artichoke, doorknob. And then somebody goes, oh my God, right? So it's just, it's not up to me to figure it out. It's just up to me to relay the information. And then I end up learning a lot. So
that's so
it's an art, not a science, I'll tell you that.
Wow. that just to have that kind of sensory feeling about you, and just being able to like be a musician too and have those experiences together, I can't even imagine like how, like, I mean, you explained it already, but like that, it just seems like it would be so amazing.
Pretty wild. I love it, and it's just such a gift to get to share all of that. Because I have to say, like, I'm really glad that this is all happening for me right now, right? Like, I feel like I want to give a plug to being persistent about our dreams and the things that we want to create and put into the world, because I'm 37 years old, right? If I had quit when I was 29 because like, oh, I have to be 30 to like do this stuff, right? Or if I had stopped, like when my band stopped touring 5 years ago, you know, I didn't know I was a medium then. I didn't know a lot of the information that I have now. And for me today to get to show up as like my whole self, like I get to say like, oh yeah, I do all these awesome things. They all speak to each other, and there's no version of this where like I would want to have it any other way. Like Push was 100% like so many synchronicities, so many songs that just like channeled through, so many moments of like feeling this connection with people, like filming the Brave Ones music video. We filmed that in August of 2019, and I was like, I know it has to be this day, because if it's not, we're not going to get to do this next summer. Yeah. I didn't know why. I was just like, we're not going to be able to do this next summer, so we have to do it this summer. Wow. And I knew the album wasn't going to come out for a long time, but I was like, we have to do this. And then the pandemic, right? I'm not saying I predicted a pandemic, but even like the lyrics to Better, the first song, the first line of Better is, listen up, the whole world's in the flux of a fever. I wrote that in 2015. And then this all happened, right? So it's like, I didn't know then what it was going to be. So it's just a plug to say, like, if you're working on something, keep working on it, because by the time it's ready, you'll be ready, right? Like, I wasn't ready to talk about it this way 5 years ago. You know, I had all the songs, but the whole thing is just such a huge, like, integrated part of what this creative expression is, you know, and I get to be my full self to present it, and that feels just really exciting.
That's so cool. I got a little emotional, like, listening to you say that. But
that's cool. That means it's working. It's working. My secret plan is working.
I know. But oh my god, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It was really, really nice. Everyone who's watching, her album, Jocelyn's album, releases on the 29th, so hope you go give it a listen, and she's gonna keep pushing out stuff all year. It's a push year.
You're a push. That's the year in push. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you so
all
much.
right.
That's such a nice thing.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, until next time. Goodbye, everybody.